in a very sensitive position here. And what
Yeah,
I'm
but
trying
lots
to
of
do.
people are in sensitive positions. They're in hospital and ICUs dying, and they need this medicine.
Well,
this is what I don't get. You know, are you, because you're not a clinician, you're not at the coalface, you're not seeing people dying every day, and this medicine prevents deaths by 80%. So 80% of those people who are dying today don't need to die because there's ivermectin.
It's a great point. This is some of that.
There are a lot, as I said, there are a lot of different opinions about this. As I said, some people
We're looking at the data. It doesn't matter what other people say. We are the ones who are tasked with and we have the experience to look at the data and reassure everybody that this cheap and effective treatment will save lives. It's clear. You don't have to say, well, so-and-so says this and so-and-so says that. It's absolutely crystal clear. We can save lives today if we can get the government to buy ivermectin.
Goodness. This is a fascinating discussion, and this is some of that video. We've played portions of it before. That is Dr. TESS LAWRIE, who is the founder of the British Ivermectin Recommendation Development Initiative. It's called BIRD International, and she's the director of the Evidence-Based Medicine Consultancy in the UK, and she's speaking with Dr. Andrew Hill, who had been doing research and had a position on the use of ivermectin in terms of treating COVID symptoms. And then, interestingly enough, after his work with Unitate, after there was a multi-million-dollar sponsorship that was given, his position did a complete 180. And she was asking him questions about this because he didn't really vary the data on which his new position was formed from the data that he had previously analyzed and had his old position. It was bizarre. And we've talked about this, and this has become more than just a news issue for me. It's personal because I recovered from Omicron, and I had doctor prescribed ivermectin to help treat my symptoms. And they have the use of ivermectin. We're going to talk to Dr. LAWRIE about this. There are ways that it can treat inflammatory issues, which is one of the reasons why when you're dealing with this virus, you have the aches that you do. I mean, my finger knuckles hurt. It was crazy. I've never had an experience like this before. I felt like I was 90 years old. And then when I started ivermectin from my own personal experience, and it was doctor prescribed, it helped alleviate those issues. And I really think that people like Dr. LAWRIE and others are misrepresented in the press because the way that they're written about it, they are made, it's like they're fabricating a position that they don't have. They're saying, well, people like Dr. LAWRIE are saying that ivermectin can cure COVID. No one's saying that. It's all about treating symptoms. And I just wish that there was fact-based discussion in this issue because it is about saving lives no matter what the politics are. Dr. TESS LAWRIE joins us via Skype now. Dr. LAWRIE, thank you so much for joining us on this, and thank you for your work on this. And since the last time we spoke, I got coronavirus, I got COVID, and I had doctor prescribed ivermectin. And in fact, my entire family, including our parents, everyone had it. And everyone had doctor prescribed ivermectin, and everyone's symptoms, it treated our symptoms. And that's exactly what it is supposed to do. Tell us about, just basically for people who are unfamiliar, why did you get interested in this? Because I know you talked about the anti-inflammatory properties of this before. Talk to us about this a little.
Well, it's a year ago since, it's actually almost a year since that video, the Zoom meeting was recorded. And a little bit before that I saw Pierre Corey's testimony in front of the Senate. Obviously I was interested. We were all looking for something to help people with COVID. And it made sense that this widely used antiparasitic agent might possibly work. And so, and then when we started receiving information on the mechanisms of action, it becomes apparent that ivermectin has antiviral properties, but there's also these strong anti-inflammatory properties that really make it useful for the whole course of the illness. If you think about what happens with COVID, you have the viral phase the first couple of days, and then your body's starting to make the spike protein. The virus is making the spike protein, and you're having a kind of allergic reaction to it with a lot of inflammation. It's a multi-system inflammatory disease. So if you leave that even longer, well, then you end up with clotting and all of that, which is also, because of this inflammatory reaction. And because ivermectin works against inflammation as well, it's useful at all stages of the disease. But we know that with any infection, and especially with COVID, you want to treat it early. The earlier you get in there, the less likely you're going to have all that inflammation and the side effects.
What gets me, we're talking with Dr. TESS LAWRIE, who is really well respected for her work on this, and she's also the co-founder of the World Council for Health. Because I was looking at all of the different studies with ivermectin, and that's one of the big talking points that I hear from people. I've had people tell me, well, ivermectin didn't work for you. I can speak for myself, my mother, my stepfather, my in-laws. I mean, my children, my husband, we all went through the same thing, and we all had the exact same responses to the prescribed use of ivermectin for our symptoms. From what I understand, and you've written about this, there are 27 randomized controlled studies that look at tens of thousands of patients that show reduced time to viral clearance, hastened recovery time, reduced mortality. But yet, why is it the talking point still remains that it's just horse dewormer and these people are quacks, this is crazy, there's nothing to support their claims? But yes, there is. Why is this being ignored, and how is that called science?
Yeah, well, you have to look at the wider forces at play, because in January last year, the whole machine, the COVID machine, was rolled out. There were the PCR tests. There was the developmental experimental vaccines being developed, the new drugs being developed. And there was little ivermectin that just kind of stepped out and said, hang on, I'm here, you don't need any of the other stuff. Because honestly, if it had been rolled out then, there would have been no need for anything else. Ivermectin, in conjunction with all the other supplements and other older medicines that could have been repurposed. So it was kind of an inconvenient truth, really. And so there was this effort that I could see, that I witnessed, being suppressed, and the evidence being really picked apart. Over the last year, it's been picked apart, and what you see in the mainstream media and in the journals and everything is just a lot of negative studies and a lot of negative reporting, and I believe that that's all been financed by those who benefit from the COVID industry.
Yes, because from what I understand, it's very inexpensive to buy quite a lot of units of ivermectin to treat symptoms, as opposed to everything else. Talking with Dr. TESS LAWRIE, and this, Dr. LAWRIE, also brings us to this video, your conversation with Dr. Andrew Hill, who had a 180 reversal on his position on the uses of ivermectin. And from what I understand, because in the UK, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can't just go, doctors are not prescribing this to treat the symptoms of coronavirus. And you've worked very, very hard with your peer-researched studies to change this. And from what I understand, the World Health Organization and Dr. Hill, they were all working together to stop what you were doing and the research that you had from becoming public.
Well, I'm not sure. I can't say that the WHO was doing that, or anyone that I particularly have confirmed was doing it. All I can say was there was such pushback. So with Dr. Hill's position, he was originally very excited, it seemed, about ivermectin. We were making progress. We agreed it was the key, really, to helping people, treating, and then after that Zoom call, he withdrew from the media. He had a whole lot of he deleted all his tweets, and he kind of went silent. And we were all waiting, all the scientific community were waiting for him to come out with or to kind of change back, to say something positive, and nobody wanted to kind of annoy him, So we were waiting until his contract ended, which was in April, and we thought then he's going to come clean and kind of, but he never did, and I think the contract was renewed. And we were still waiting, because in the Zoom call he said, by the end of February we'll have all the data. So we were waiting for that and then that never happened. But if I could just also say, it's very unusual that you let everything just rest on a meta-analysis. When you've got a medicine that's being so widely used anyway. Millions of people have received ivermectin for COVID. If you look at Uttar Pradesh, an Indian state, it's got a population of over 200 million, and ivermectin was widely used there to squash COVID.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's unfortunate that it's become so. It seems almost less political and more driven by really where the dollars go. We're talking to Dr. TESS LAWRIE, and talk a little bit about because we were just discussing, some of these randomized control studies and the safety and efficacy that's been proven with using this to treat symptoms. Talk a little bit about what this means in terms of ivermectin treating coronavirus, if you can, to people that may have questions on this.
Well, ivermectin is a very, very safe medicine. Usually we give it in combination with vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc,
right,
aspirin, and antihistamines.
And ivermectin is safer than aspirin, correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah, certainly. If you look at the databases, there's far fewer. I was looking at the World Health Organization VIGI-Access database before coming on, and there's still less than 6,000 adverse drug reaction records to ivermectin since 1992. And if you look at, and that's far less than remdesivir in just the last year. And if you compare that to the COVID vaccines, there's almost 3 million. So you're talking 3 million versus less than 6,000 in 30 years.
Wow.
3 million in 1 year.
It's incredibly significant. And this, I wanted to talk to you a little bit because there was this cease and desist that went through the World Council for Health. And I hate that everything has gotten so politicized that now our medical experts like yourself, people to whom folks like me and everyone else really look to for answers and guidance during this time. You really are kind of muzzled, and I know the Bird account was suspended from what I understand on Twitter. Your account's no longer active on Twitter. And people can go to the website, which I highly suggest they do. It's bird-group.org, and you can read everything about all of Dr. LaWrie's work with regards to ivermectin and everything that we're talking about here. But talk a little bit about some of because there was the cease and desist that went through the World Council for Health that was about this. Tell us a little bit about that issue. What happened?
Yeah, the cease and desist is related to the experimental COVID vaccines. The World Council for Health is a coalition of more than 100 organizations now, health-focused organizations, many in the States as well, but 35 countries. And we've come together, we're scientists, lawyers, other professionals, journalists. We've come together really to try and help the public make sense and to provide some guidance. So the cease and desist is a document that we released with our legal team, put together in December after our medical and science committee had evaluated the evidence and drew the conclusion that the evidence showing that the vaccines are causing harm is overwhelming, and that the vaccines need to be stopped. So that cease and desist notice is a notice. It is a declaration of the position of the World Council for Health, calling for any organization or individual that is manufacturing, administering, or promoting the gene-based therapies now to stop doing what they're doing. And we're asking members of the public to actually serve the document on individuals that or individuals and organizations who are continuing to promote or administer or manufacture the COVID experimental vaccines.
It's accountability, which I love. Our last question for Dr. TESS LAWRIE, and we so appreciate your work on this. I've learned so much about this just from the work that you've done and that you've shared on Bird on your website with Bird. Talk to folks a little bit about what can they do with these symptoms and treat these symptoms at home. We spoke to Dr. Geert Vanden Bosch yesterday, and we were discussing this idea that the focus used to be on herd immunity and achieving immunity, and now the focus is all about vaccines. And just like the focus is all about cases and not the severity of cases, the severity of symptoms. And it seems that science is now all about doing everything possible to make it to where the human body's immune system is irrelevant to whatever the pharmaceutical companies would like to administer. And so that's, obviously from that context, you can understand the hostility that they have towards, treatments like ivermectin. Talk for a little bit, and I know that you have some resources on Bird Group's website, just the protocols for people to protect themselves and ease these symptoms at home as well, because, that's what your immune system is also for.
Yeah, natural immunity is best. We've been duped into thinking that taking something else is better, but in actual fact, our nature is best, and our bodies know what to do. You don't need to be afraid of COVID. COVID is treatable. There's a whole range of safe, repurposed medicines and supplements, including ivermectin. So, if you go onto the World Council of Health website, you will find an at-home treatment guide that has all the medicines you can stock up and keep at home in case somebody in your family gets ill. And these include ivermectin, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc. Many of these you should be taking, like the vitamins and supplements, taking preventatively anyway. Aspirin, antihistamines, N-acetylcysteine, among others. So there are substitutes as well if you can't get ivermectin. Neem works. That's an Ayurvedic medicine. There's Nigella seeds, Nigella sativa, which is black cumin seeds. It's actually really tasty, and I have it on my breakfast every day. It's a very good antiviral and a substitute for ivermectin. Oh, quercetin as well. So anyway, so there's a whole list of medicines you can keep at home, and then there's also a list of medicines you could take if you go into hospital to take with you to show your doctors what they can prescribe for you.
I hope that the world opinion of this slowly comes to fact and reason. I mean, it would be wonderful to see, and with work like yours, it's possible. Dr. TESS LAWRIE, yes.
I just wanted to say, what we're really encouraging people to do is actually to stop outsourcing their health to others and actually do their own research, make sure that it's from a trustworthy source, and take control of your own health. Because we're at a point now where there's only one way, and that's to learn for yourself and look after yourself.
There it is, Dr. TESS LAWRIE. You can find her online, bird-group.org. Dr. LAWRIE, thank you so much. Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for your work and for your time.